Just a just because I feel like it kind of video. Yeah, I feel like making some clarifications on some of this evolution stuff and what I'm talking about and why I think it's important. To be serious has implied that I say genes control behavior, and that's not exactly what I say. In a lot of animals, they certainly does. They're programmed from the start, and that's it. Obviously, human beings have a capacity to step beyond any genetic disposition, but there certainly is a genetic disposition towards behavior conducive to their own satisfaction, and that is usually an issue of programming. Whether it's native programming, the basic drives for food and other things, are the conditioning of that programming. So the programming of the programming, in terms of what kind of foods we like or don't like, our preferences, our prejudices, that kind of nonsense. And that's all pretty much arbitrarily imposed by culture and circumstances. So yeah, I mean, she just mischaracterizes what I've said and what I have been advocating. There was a comment in one of her previous videos a while back where she said something like, somebody mentioned my solution videos, and she said something like, well, I don't think his solutions would be solutions, or whatever, some sort of little throwaway comment. And you know, that's just part of what the problem is here. The problem is that once people decide that they're going to make this nonsense important, they decide to discredit everything that you say just because they choose to discredit one part of what you might be saying. And that works a lot of the times when you can actually point to something real, but when you're mischaracterizing what somebody's premise is, then that's likely just that kind of bigotry goes nowhere. Yeah, I believe the only way we can fix anything is by using our intelligence and controlling our behavior. And you know, Nick the Modern Mystic did 5 videos today on the fact that you know, our control is limited. This brain thing does what it's going to do, and we don't have much say in it. We are what we are. Part of that is a product of the external circumstances, what we bring to the table genetically through what we are given by nature to work with in terms of a capacity. And you know, our personality ends up being a product of all of that, and it seems like we have something to do with it, but we really don't. It's just a matter of programming interacting, and it's going to do that uniquely, because every individual is going to have unique circumstances, and so they'll be able to create a new unique philosophy, a unique perspective, a unique way of interacting with the world. But is that good for humanity or bad for humanity? Because this is where we get into this whole debate. I mean, the facts of life, I think, are pretty simple, and I think we have enough information to pretty much write them in stone. We know where we came from. We know what we're a product of. We are bacteria with brains, and the with brains part is important. By nature, we're still bacteria. We're here to consume and reproduce. You know, and then we have this intelligence that, you know, was given to us at first to be nothing more than a scheming tool, was to be nothing more than a tool to be used by our bodies to more effectively do what nature had programmed it to do, which is consume and reproduce. But now we have this capacity. We can use it for other purposes. We can go beyond the purpose nature endorsed, essentially through natural selection, and we can take it a step further. We can become much more elegant, and we can do things for principle and because of ideals and because of something we understand inside this brain. There's this notion of understanding. There's a functioning concept of logic that's working in here. Nick would call it swirling, but it's I think it does have more order than just swirling. Intelligence sort of dictates that, and this was intended to be an intelligence-producing device. It was intended to accurately model the environment, understand the world around it, and to be able to constructively interact with that in a productive way. So the knowledge would have to be accurate. The understanding would have to be accurate for that to take place. So we've been designed to do weeding, to tell the difference between truth and bullshit. And it seems a lot of people just want to live in the bullshit. They think more lies are good for humanity. And I put Matt in that category, and to be serious, and the rest of the critics who just can't stand the notion that we criticize the creator, the God, nature. But I challenge those people. I haven't gotten one rational response to anything I've said in the response videos. It's always mush. And so I challenge them to point out, well, where beyond these crude forces do they say there's this intelligence that's dictating a better world, or that is tending towards a better world? Where is there any evidence of this, except in their own imagination? Where in the reality do we have any evidence of that? That there's some sort of guiding principle, some sort of mechanism in nature that's bound to produce quality goods and not just more sophisticated and eccentric nonsense. If the facts are correct, and the rational conclusion is that natural selection has been in control and is in control, why is there any reason? What possible reason would there to believe that system would necessarily create wisely or intelligently or adequately to the purpose? If you put a functional ignoramus in charge of fixing a machine, it'd be idiotic to do that, because they're not going to have the competence to do it. You wouldn't let them build a house. So we've allowed, well, it's not that we've allowed it, but natural selection has built the house. And there's this presumption that the house is a good house, that it works, that it's functional. And that's only because the definition of functional is, oh yeah, well, it survives. And that's the standard people have. Oh, it survives, so that's all it's supposed to do. That to them is a good enough. It doesn't matter what there's no judgment versus the qualitative substance of what has been built. The only thing being judged is whether or not it actually is, and that it maintains itself, or that it perpetuates itself. And that's the definition of success. I would say that when sentient life became involved, when this vulnerability of feeling consciousness arose, the ball game changed. It became, it matters now. It just, that there is a qualitative difference, and life must meet some sort of qualitative standard to be judged good.
So to me, this argument has just gotten so simple, it's gotten so obvious, that these people, these thinkers, just refuse to accept reality because they don't like it. They don't like the truth. Because the truth is going to obligate us to accept the premise that, yeah, we've been designed to be addicted to this bullshit, and that every animal doesn't struggle to survive, it struggles to attain comfort. It does not give a damn about the future, it does not give a damn about the past. It gives a damn about itself and its own welfare. And that's what it's seeking. And as soon as we apply these notions that there's purpose in that, by mere definition, by mere the statement that it exists, therefore it has purpose. And that's what we've done. We've just presumed that God's creation is brilliant, because we won't judge the God. And so it's nothing less than a religion. It's become a sacred truth that nature knows what it's doing. and people refuse to look at it with any scrutiny, with any fair judgment. And so then I'm going to be criticized for saying things like, yes, that we're programmed to be selfish, or that nature sucks, because somebody's just going to say, no, it's not just shit. No, nature somehow is above just producing shit, that somehow there's a mechanism in place to prevent just shit being created. And I would argue it's just cannibalistic nonsense. It's just sophistication built on more complexity, just added features. All it is it's like the evolution of a video game. It goes from a handgun to a bazooka to a flamethrower, to a missile launcher or something. I mean, it's just, we're just escalating naturally in the ecosystem. It's just escalating the complexity. But the purpose remains the same, and it's a crude, stupid purpose: consume and reproduce. And there's nothing grander in the design than that. There's nothing altruistic in the design, okay? That can only come from our understanding of purpose and our understanding of qualitative substance. And so if you recognize that feelings mean something, that feeling organisms change the equation, that it adds something to this game that makes it a substantially different game, well then you can start judging whether justice is being done to those feeling organisms, whether they're caught up in a psychotic trap of desire, or whether they're actually accomplishing something. Are they just chasing the need tail, or are they actually accomplishing something? I think it's a valid question that needs to be asked. And I think if humanity's ever going to make this world look better, smell better, feel better, it's going to have to ask those questions and look at this realistically and be a little bit more cautious. Instead of this reckless reproduction and this reckless endorsement of the system, the only way that those systems are going to break down is if people say, no, we've got to judge this and we've got to engineer this and we've got to take a look at this. Because our economic systems suck. I mean, they're just based on greed and exploitation, grotesque selfishness, being displayed, aggrandizement and ego and all kinds of nonsense psychology is running the fucking world. And it's going to remain that way as long as people glorify what we are. As long as they glorify the underlying bacterial design, we're fucked. And people like me who don't see life as all that charming personally, but certainly see purpose in preserving this thing called intelligence, are going to find it a disappointing planet and a disappointing human race, falling far below its capacity and its potential because it just refuses to step outside of the natural game and engage itself in the real game, which is using this fucking intelligence. So enough of a rant, just sort of a random video because I'm just kind of despondent and pissed off that everybody is such a fucking idiot.